Hey everybody, this is Jonathan from Base 9. Welcome to part 3 of our series Git plus Bluehost, cloning a remote repository to your local machine. So now our first step I want to do is create a folder just for the purpose of this lesson on your desktop called Git, and we're going to clone our remote repository into this folder as its own folder. The next step is to go to your cPanel for Bluehost, go ahead and log in, and in your sidebar here you can see under Stats your home directory. You want to note that path down, write that down so that you can refer to it later. Now, previously in this series we installed Git on our machine, so we should have this context menu available, which means in this folder Git, make a folder here on the desktop, open it up, right click and choose Git Bash. And this is basically just a shortcut for not having to cd into all these folders. So now we have this folder Git as our main folder here that we're in the terminal, and let's SSH into our account. Okay, and password. Okay, now we're in the home directory, so we want to say cd git. Remember in the previous video we created my first repo .git. So now we just want to check my first repo, make sure that it's there essentially. We're just doing this as a kind of fail-safe to make sure. Okay, well that's fine. Yeah, there's no files in it, so it's going to say bad default revision. So we know the repository is there because we're able to cd into those folders. So let's log back out. Now we're in our folder on the machine here, on the local machine. I'm going to type clear to clear my terminal. Now what I want to say is Git Clone, and we're going to type basically our login :/ now this is important, the path that you got from cPanel, you want to type that in here. And your username is part of the path. Now that's the home directory. Now I want to type my Git folder and then my first repo.git and a space and the name of the folder that I want it to create on my local machine, which should be the same, my first repo. Now make sure that you've spelled everything correctly and that you've done the structure correctly with the username, the domain, :/ and then your specific path that you got from your Bluehost cPanel / and then the folder where your Git repo is. So let's hit enter. It's going to create that folder and then prompt us for a password. Okay. Warning, you appear to have cloned an empty repository. That's fine because we're going to add files here on the local machine and then commit them back, and that's how we're going to get files into our repository. So now we have this here. So in the terminal, let's say cd my first repo. Now we're in that folder, and also on Windows, just to kind of speed things up here, in Windows I'm going to create a new file, new text document. I'm going to call it readme. You can see here the .git folder that was created when the repository is cloned. Here we can create our working files and then push them back to the server. So I created a file called readme. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And I'm going to say this is my first repository. Yeah. Save the file. Just going to minimize that. And now in Git, and we're looking at this folder, let's say Git Status. This is going to show us that we have an untracked file which we want to add now. So type git add space period. That will add all the files that are in that folder that are untracked. Then we want to say git commit -m, which means message, quote, and then this is my first commit message, just to have something to say there. You have to include a message with every commit. That's kind of like the purpose of Git, which tracks your changes so that you can refer back to them, and it's just better. It's a better way to work. So, okay, so we've committed that file, and now we want to say git push origin master. The reason for this is when you clone a repository, if you don't specify otherwise, by default the remote is called origin and the branch is called master, so you want to push back to the master. So git push origin master should prompt us for our password here. Okay, there we have it. Now it should push that the README file. Now let's just make sure. So let's SSH back into our server. Oh, see, now I didn't spell that correctly. And that will happen sometimes. So what I'm going to do basically here is just, I'm going to Git Bash. I'm just going to open it back up. Let's spell that correctly this time. Prompt us for our password. Okay, now cd git, cd myfirstrepo.git, just like we did earlier. And now let's type git log, and that's going to show us what happened. And sure enough, there it is. The first commit with the message, with its ID, unique ID number, and the date. So now as you continue to work on your repository and other people commit and push files to that repository, you can track your changes, you can create branches, and a lot of possibilities are available. So in future videos we'll go over different ways to work with this repository, as well as creating a live repository that you can push to so that you can have your local, your remote, and then your live all connected together. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the rest of the videos in this series.